quite apart from these listing of the dramatic text, I think the very art form, and the form that I'm talking about is theatre. I am not specifically interested in literary texts. When we look at theatre, we are looking at the projection of performance on a stage of a dramatic text. And unlike Jennifer and Mr. Ho, I have no materials for you. I have no sounds. I have no marks on walls or canvases to show you, because theatre is an art written in the wind. It's an art that's seen in a chamber, in an evening, and it's carried away by the audience. That's it. And therefore the canon of any theatre is such an ephemeral thing, such an impermanent thing. And because in Singapore, so many different kinds of theatres have coexisted continuously, at least for the last 50 years or more, trying to define what that inephemeral impermanence is another act of impossibility. So I hope you're getting the picture. There is no way that anyone can tell you what the canon for Singapore theatre is or should be. All we can do is to attempt ourselves to constitute a canon as we go on, as the need dictates. And that is what we've been trying to do. That's what theatre practitioners in Singapore have been constantly trying to do. What is it that makes theatre, any theatre, ours? What is it that enables us as a people to own art, to claim it as ours? Well, part of the answer is that there is nothing. Any art worth its name defies nationality. Any art worth its name breaks the bonds of culture and goes beyond the boundaries of what is definable, or what's knowable. That is the nature of art. Art has to be iconoclastic to some extent. When Ethel Fugard wrote his famous plays in the Market Theatre of South Africa, he was speaking about a specific experience of apartheid among the black people in South Africa. But those plays didn't just speak to the blacks in South Africa. They spoke to everyone in the world. They were claimed by everyone in the world. And Fugard's plays are as much mine as they belong to a South African. And this is what makes his plays great. 12 years ago, I had the privilege of visiting a very small theatre school in Thrissur, in Kerala. The old professor who ran the school proudly showed me his syllabus. And of course they contained all the great Indian playwrights, Bhasha, Kalidasa, Tagore. The great names were all there. But among those great names was one William Shakespeare. And I said, but William Shakespeare, why do you include William Shakespeare in your canon? And he looked at me and he said, but Shakespeare is one of us. But Shakespeare is one of us. Therefore, the definition of this canon for Singapore, one of the most open cities in the world, not just today, but for as long as we can remember in history, one of the most permeous in terms of its cultural borders, one of the most liberal in terms of influences from outside. What can such a canon be? The canon must be what the world can offer us. The canon must be what we as people can take and then transform and make our own. The canon must be what we need to be the canon. Not something which is imposed, not something which is authorized, not something which is valorized by the state or the system or the economy or some other structure that's imposed upon us. It has to be defined by the artist. It has to be defined by the people who are doing theatre, who are making theatre, who are working in theatre, and by you, the people who are watching theatre, who are prepared to pay the dollar and to see a play. That's who defines the canon. The days when canons are defined by scholars and academics are over. And this is, I think, the crucial thing. The point I'm trying to make is that the definition of a canon is as much a community effort, a community politic that has to be engaged in and that has to be constantly revised, reviewed, and critiqued. Because otherwise, what we have would be fossilized lists of plays that should be in museums. And if you look at the plays in Singapore over the last 20 or 30 years, you can see that the works that are beginning to rise up and have a significance, that have a resonance amongst the people of Singapore, are plays that have constantly helped us define ourselves. Plays that have shown us a mirror to ourselves, so that we saw ourselves as ourselves on stage. Now, I say this today with as much surprise as I can possibly summon, because 30 years ago, if you had told me that would have been possible, I would have been laughed out of court.